Welcome, good afternoon, welcome to the studio. Today I'm joined by Kelly. Welcome back, Kelly.
Hi.
I think you've been to London lately and you just got back to Southend, haven't you?
Yeah, just got back.
And you've got your lovely children with you.
Yeah, I do.
So it's obviously a busy time for families, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think we mentioned last week when we were talking about entertaining, it's very hard to find things to keep them entertained.
Very.
You can feel the pressure, can't you?
Yeah. The devices are helping a lot.
Oh, you like the phones.
The phones, the laptops.
That's it. I mean, I think parents shouldn't feel the need to fill in every single moment of time.
Exactly.
Things to do.
And get them, encouraging them to read and so on and so forth as well. It's a good time.
Yeah, definitely reading. They shouldn't drop it just because it's the holidays.
Yeah, exactly.
And we should all enjoy it as well.
Yeah.
And something that we really like.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned as well your children like music, don't they?
Yeah, definitely into instruments, playing drums, piano, singing, and also producing music. My son produces.
Yeah, so these are good things, Kelly's made some excellent suggestions. If you're looking for something to suggest to your children to do, get them to have a little go at an instrument.
Yeah, and
read a book.
Yeah, definitely. Instruments, reading books, and even board games.
Yes.
Board games are underrated.
They are. What's your favourite?
Do you know what I like? I'm getting into Monopoly.
Oh.
And I'm trying to get into Cluedo.
Cluedo.
Cluedo. We say Cluedo in French. Sorry.
Because you do with your children, you mainly speak French, don't you?
Yeah. So I've been in French mode for a while, so I need to switch back in English mode.
Yeah, or maybe we can be more sophisticated and we can say Cluedo. So it's interesting that you mentioned Monopoly, because it is something that we generally associate with arguments.
Ooh, yes. It's a serious game.
It is, yeah. It's quite competitive, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you want to be the one that has all the property on the board. You want to bankrupt all of your friends or your family. And it's kind of like a dog eat dog.
Definitely. I mean, it starts off, when I've played Monopoly, it starts off very cooperative, like, I don't really know how to play, But then when it gets to the crunch of, okay, now it's time to own. No, sorry, I'm not helping anymore.
I find myself becoming a bit of a debt collector. So I start off with, oh, you can't afford that. It's all right, I'm a good person. I'll forgive you this time. But then after that, that's it.
People start teaming up against, okay, like you get those properties, I get those properties, and then gang up against someone else that's in the.
It does actually. It's one of those things that is possible to play it nicely, I'm sure, but it does tend to cause arguments. I've had some of my nephews literally throw the board across the room.
I didn't realise how serious that was. I've seen people get so angry. I'm just like, it's just a game, but Monopoly is not really just a game, is it? When it means
Probably not. I think there's just something about it. But whilst we're on the topic of that, I don't know whether or not you've seen the live debates recently, because the UK or England is trying to appoint their next Prime Minister. And we've had several candidates who have, been put under the spotlight and pressure, and they've been asked many questions and put against one another. Were you able to see any of those?
I overheard some feedback on some of the, it's really like a tough.
Yeah.
It gets really,
Yeah.
it's really like mountains to the walk.
Exactly. So the most recent one, some of you might have seen it, or you may not, so I'm just going to tell you, it came down to Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss. So those are the two candidates. One of those is going to be our next Prime Minister. Anyway, so the last debate that they had, it was probably in all of the newspapers the next day about how they went on a rampage with one another, attacking each other's policies and what they stood for. But the thing is that when they did that, they were also attacking their own party because they're obviously both conservative.
Oh wow! Yes.
So it's an interesting thing to watch, where one is trying to show the other one up in order to kind of climb up the ladder to get to the. I mean, it's a tough position to be in.
Especially if it's two people from the same team,
Yeah.
and that causes a division. So it's like, if you're in that team, if you're conservative, who do you know?
It's ambition, isn't
Yeah,
it?
exactly.
And obviously, as a country, citizens, we want the best leader. And they will come under a lot of scrutiny, won't they? But it's just that sense that they were in the members of the same party, which is a little difficult. So the question today is, are disagreements and arguments necessary for life?
Very good question.
So,
Very good question.
so what are your thoughts on this, Billy?
I do believe that, in life we are going to be faced with some form of conflict or disagreement. So I think that in a way it's necessary to sometimes differentiate or get an opinion or so on and so forth. But it's just the way in which the disagreement is delivered that changes the dynamics, basically.
Because you mentioned conflict, and I think the difference between an argument or a disagreement and conflict is just the way that you've gone about it. And when we say conflict, it obviously conjures up the image of, I think, Ukraine and other countries where they've got war, haven't they? Conflict. And it is fighting rather than arguing with a fair idea of trying to resolve a problem. And that does happen in a very much smaller scale between people, doesn't it? All the time. I don't know if you've ever seen those TV programs, the cops programs or police programs, you know, and they always show, mostly nighttime, people having punch-ups. And it's usually escalated from something really silly.
That's it. It starts off as a little disagreement, escalates into an actual argument, and then to a conflict. And and a lot of the time on these police programs, it's because of alcohol. And the common denominator.
Well, this is it. Alcohol obviously it makes you less inhibited.
Yeah, I mean, it changes your thought process. And sometimes it brings out part of you that you wouldn't really want to be exposed and people to know. So that
it makes you more courageous. But I think as well, some people, those not so nice traits can come out, can't they?
Makes you courageous to say the things you wouldn't.
You wouldn't really want to say, because you know really as an adult that you're going to regret them.
Yeah. And what's the famous line? Oh, it's not me, it's the alcohol. Blame it on the...
Yeah. I think that the problem is that it's once somebody has done or said something that's quite harmful to other people, or even to their own image, it's really hard to get it back. And even if you're, had a drink or whatever it is, that really still pass your mind.
Yeah.
So the person had the thoughts
Mhm.
about whatever they were going to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
I think you heard the about the Oscars this year.
Oh, the
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
it was Will Smith, wasn't it?
Yeah, Will Smith and Chris Rock. Will
Right.
Smith, yeah.
Chris Rock is
Yeah.
a comedian,
Yeah, he's a
and
comedian.
he was hosting the Oscars. And he, as a comedian, as part of his job, he was ridiculing a lot of the people in the audience.
Mhm. As they do.
As you do, you know, it's entertaining, I suppose. But not always entertaining for the person that's being ridiculed.
Yeah.
And he was ridiculing Will Smith's wife, who's Jada.
Pinkett Smith, yeah.
And her hairstyle,
Yeah.
or lack of,
Yeah.
because I think she'd shaved her hair off.
Yeah.
And I think she was getting quite upset about it.
Mhm.
And something, you can watch it on YouTube because it's everywhere now, something
Yeah.
kind of flicks in Will Smith's head, and he gets up on stage and he just slaps.
Trying to defend his wife.
Yes,
So the intention was to defend his wife.
yeah,
But
yeah,
again, we go back to the delivery of defending.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose in a circumstance like that, it would be very difficult to have an argument.
Yeah.
And in the heat of anger, or you know, seeing somebody that he obviously cares a lot about
Mhm.
being upset, it's got up, and unfortunately, yeah,
The famous slap.
the famous slap.
Mhm.
Yes, I think almost everybody knows about it.
Yeah, if you don't know about the Will Smith slap, then I don't know.
Yeah, where we've been.
Where have you been?
So I think this is kind of like a good example of something that you do in the heat of the moment, in anger, it's rash, you haven't sat and thought about the consequences,
Mhm.
or maybe you have, but just, you know, you've got to be prepared to go through those consequences if you do something like
Yeah.
that. And I do think from what he said, that he does regret it, and they haven't reconciled. I think they were quite good friends before, and that hasn't happened. So, you know, there's a lot of regret and a lot of bad things that happen when people don't have an argument, which is strange, isn't it, really? Because we think you want to avoid arguing, but would have been better, maybe.
To have a chat afterwards.
Yeah.
Communication is key.
Yeah. So in these circumstances, I suppose you could say that arguing is a part of life.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd always say no and disagree with me.
Well, yeah, I'd love to disagree with you and debate, because initially it's a debate, right?
Yeah.
You know, I love debating because it's like you're kind of sharing your perception, the person sharing their perception, but it's how you end it, end the debate. That's where it kind of becomes tricky, accepting.
You know, if you felt very, very strongly about something, and then you've got somebody who completely opposes everything that you believe, you could accept that there are, you know, people in the world that are going to think differently to you. And I think a lot of us do, don't we? There's so many opinions about so many different things that we just get along.
Yeah, I mean, that's what makes us different. You know, it's like, would you like to be in a room with people all the time that you all agree on the same thing? It's great, but sometimes you need to have some disagreements in order to either get another perception of something. Sometimes through disagreements, you can actually gain more knowledge.
Yes, you sort of develop personally, don't you? Because you actually start to think about an alternative perspective.
Yeah.
Or even like, you know, you've strengthened your own perspective because you still disagree with
exactly.
alternative. But I think if you disagree with, say, like you have an idea of how people should behave, you know, things that people should not do, that's one of the things that when you then witness the behaviour, and especially if it affects you personally, that it's going to make you feel like you have to say something.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things, you can kind of bite the bullet a lot.
Bite your tongue.
Yeah. If you think, oh, it's not worth the argument, or I'm not going to be able to change this person's mind. But then if that person's behaviour is going to negatively affect other people, then I think that you're more likely then to address the situation.
Yeah. Definitely.
And then there's good things that can come out of it.
Yeah, because
Not always,
sometimes,
but
no, because you know sometimes when people have a certain behaviour and it's basically lack of self-knowledge, and through the disagreement you're going to let them know, well, actually I disagree with you because, and this is the reason, and this is my evidence, and that the other person can learn from that, you know. So I mean, nobody wants to be around somebody that disagrees with them all the time.
no,
You can imagine.
no.
They always negate what you're saying, but I think there is space for healthy, you know, arguments, or should I say disagreement, and having an argument to present based on a topic. You know, I think that's healthy. But then, like for me, I think it's more conflict resolution. You know, that's where I feel like I need a bit more attention, because a lot of people like look at the wars we're having, look at that.
Yeah.
There's a lack of conflict resolution.
There is, because well, my point of view it is that, you know, somebody has an agenda to do something that fundamentally is going to deprive another country of their human rights.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very difficult then to find a resolution to if the person involved is not willing to
come
meet in the middle.
Yeah, to meet in the middle, to compromise, or to compromise. And I feel compromising can be helpful, but without losing your own self, basically, without giving up on your own idea. So.
But one of the things, it's very, very difficult, I think, to have an argument if you are very emotional.
Oh yeah.
You know,
I'm the type of person who cries. So if I'm upset, I'm crying. There's no way of actually getting anything, and then frustration. So yeah, when you have an emotional personality, it's very difficult.
Yeah, and you can't be helped sometimes, though, can you?
Yeah.
You know? But I think if you have a disagreement with somebody and you feel that you really need to go and address it, it's really, really worthwhile just taking a bit of time before you go to them and really thinking about what your point of view is, what it is that they have done to offend you, what their point of view is, try and imagine it, and what you actually want out of going to try and resolve it.
And that's it.
A lot of people start arguments without knowing
what
they want.
It's like they just want to be right about what? What is the end? What would being right do to the situation?
Yeah.
Because sometimes being right might not help the situation. Sometimes it might be okay, cool, agreeing that they're wrong, and just walking away from the agreeing that you don't agree. And that's the saying, isn't it? I agree. We agree to disagree. You know.
Yeah, and actually, I think a lot of the time it all comes down to somebody just wanting an apology.
Yeah, or just wanting. Do you know what? Yeah, apology or validation to be validated,
to be heard.
To be heard, because it's not necessarily like for somebody who would hurt someone else and they're not gonna say, "Oh, you hurt me. You've got to apologize," and the person knowing that they hurt the person. That's the level of defensiveness, isn't it? So they feel defensive and like, oh no, like I don't want to be known as someone that's hurt someone else, and no one ever hurt you.
So it's kind of like your identity, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if somebody is saying something about you that then makes you doubt your own identity, that is one of the things that makes you feel that you really have to sort it out. You really have to say something back. It makes you passionate.
Yeah, it makes you passionate about that, or you misquoting me or misrepresenting me, and it's like you don't want to get into the argument of it, but the emotion of knowing pushes you into that direction, and then how it's being received. Do you know what I mean? So it's like sometimes just a small change in dynamic can just make.
We are very complex beings.
Yeah, we are.
You know, humans are quite complex, because we do have to think about personality, emotions, identity, you know, all these different things, even culture as well.
I was just thinking that.
Culture.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Because one of the things I think, so from a Western perspective, one of the things I think a lot of us would agree on is that we think that children, very young children, should not have to go to work. That kind of changed a long time ago with the coming in of like children's rights, and nowadays children are encouraged to stay in school until they're 18, and then get a job. I mean, I know there are still children that do get a job before that, but education is seen as
priority.
Really important. But the fact is that about 100 years ago, maybe a little bit more now, very young children were sent out to work because they needed to provide for the family, sometimes given very dangerous jobs that would ruin their lives.
Children mining.
Mining.
Mary Poppins, children that clean the chimney or something.
Chimney, just shove them up there because they're small.
They're small.
Yeah, or how many children were permanently disabled in working on machinery that was just so dangerous. All these things that when you go back you think, that's terrible, but if you were alive at that time, that would have just been normal. And so when we read about third world countries where children of a very young age, 9, 10, sent out to work, and they're not able to go to school, we obviously disagree with it, but we know that it's
a different culture.
Unfortunately, it's just part of life in the place that they're from. They have to support their family, otherwise they go hungry. And it's something that we do not. I think a lot of us don't
agree on.
And a lot of places do fight for education for children. A lot of charities raise money, to build schools and things like that. But it's just one of the ways in which culture can shape
your opinion.
Your opinion, and how you can disagree with somebody of a different culture because of that.
I mean, you see all the time people disagreeing over religion, disagreeing over all these things, and then when you look from the outside in, you're looking at the disagreement. They're never going to come to a conclusion or resolution. No. So that's definitely an argument that you shouldn't even get into. Just agree that you're different, you have different, beliefs. But people would do that all day, every day, and just get into. So it's interesting to watch, and it makes you know, okay, well, I'm not going to get into these types of arguments because.
So, if you were, say, going downtown and you saw a couple of people having an argument, would you get involved?
Well, I've got a little story. I was walking home when I was living in London, and there was a couple arguing inside their flat, and I could hear them, and it was kind of a bit of a TV situation. So I was like, okay, what's happening? So, because the flat was downstairs, and I was like, oh, you're right, you're okay. And then afterwards, the guy looked out, and he came outside. And I stood there, and he was like, what? And he goes, are you alright? Is everything okay? And he goes, what? And he goes, you know what? Jesus loves you. Okay, just remember Jesus loves you. And I walked off. Walked back the day after, a week after, and then he was outside, and he goes, you know what? That time you came and stopped me, thank you. He thanked me for getting involved at that moment because he would have done something stupid. And he was like, yeah, he went to church there afterwards when I said that to him. And then I was just like, okay, that was my initial. I just felt the pull just to say something because it didn't have nothing to do. I could have walked off, but for me to say something because the woman was kind of screaming help or whatever she was screaming. But
I suppose that a lot of people wouldn't know what to do in this situation.
I don't know.
So to think of something so simple like that, but so effective.
Because I was trying to avoid the argument and the conflict. And I said, you know what? It would just say Jesus loves you, and I walked off. That worked. So
but it distracted.
You distracted him, and it made him think, oh yeah, okay, what's going on?
And got him to church.
Yeah, and he went, and he was just thanking me afterwards. So, and I could have been anyone. Anyone could have done what I did. So I feel like at that situation, but not all the time. It's not all the time you can get involved.
No, because there are some situations where if you got involved, that some people wouldn't appreciate it. And you would end up putting yourself in danger. And I think in those situations, rather than you yourself get involved one-to-one or one-to-two, you should maybe consider, should I call the police?
Yeah, I think that's the first thing that anyone should do is think about the gravity of it and then call for assistance, because sometimes it's better than getting yourself involved, basically.
I think a lot of people are going to look at the situation, where it is that the people are arguing, what it is that they're arguing about. Are these people, you know, is it escalating? Or is it one of those kind of more of a debate thing, you know, like, I support Liverpool, well, I support Manchester United, you know.
They get really serious about it. And that's the thing, sometimes people don't know the difference between a debate and an argument, you know, because it's down to the tone or the emotion that's put into it, you know. So yeah, sometimes it's nice to sit back and just figure out what
try and
what is it, you know,
is it worth but actually, do you know what, I've got to say, because I did mention football there, congratulations to the England women's team, because they did what the men could not.
Oh, don't say that. The men say, well,
you know, it's been 60 years of waiting, and the women did it.
We did it.
So it's the men's turn next time. Just, you know.
Yeah, we're just giving you a little heads up of how it should be done.
Exactly. You have to study their formation.
Yeah.
So I think really we'll wrap it up there, unless you fancy an argument.
No, okay.
No, we're too calm for this. But if anything that we've spoken about today has affected you, you know, if there's unresolved conflicts or arguments or disagreements and you need somebody to help mediate or even just listen to what you're saying, do get in contact with us, because we're very happy to help in any way that we can. We're not professionals, but sometimes it just takes...
Almost.
Well,
I'm training to become I'm currently studying to become a counsellor.
So we'll have a professional.
Yeah, you'll have managed.
There we go.
Yeah.
So we have professional in training. And just listening is if you need to talk to anybody about it. Sometimes talking about what's going on in your head can help you work things out.
Definitely. And also, if you don't feel comfortable speaking to us, you can always call the Samaritans. That's a line that helps a lot of people, just having someone to talk to that doesn't know you, won't see you, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and there's nothing to be afraid with the Samaritans. They don't, you know, track you and
No.
anything like
It's
that.
a quick phone call, and then you'll never hear from them. They won't follow up or anything like that.
Yeah, unless obviously you feel that you need extra help. Anything like that you want to put in the comments box, don't put swearing or, you know, name people that you're disgruntled with, you know, your blacklist of people that you don't like at the moment. We don't want to hear that.
No.
But maybe you can put something about an argument that you've resolved, something like that.
Yeah, if you've got any tips of how you resolved an argument and what worked for you, you could help someone else.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, these are our perspectives, aren't they? I'm sure there's a lot more in the world.
Definitely.
And there are people that want to argue with us about everything that we've said today. What I think Joe's got something to say about what's going on.
Yeah, quickly. Hello, everybody. First of all, hello, everybody. Just quickly, I want to say we've had a lot going on last week, and we've got even more going on this week. Today we had our first art stream session. It was great to see so many people come down. We're going to have some photos and stuff like that on social media tomorrow, so look out for those. But it was great. It was a great morning, lovely weather, and it was, you know, good fun to get a bit messy and painting and things like that. So that was great. We've also got the cookery class starting soon as well at 213. So do look out for that. If you are interested in that, please contact the church office either by email or by phone, just because we have a limited number of spaces for that. But yeah, there's going to be loads more going on. Obviously we have our usual services, so people are back from their kind of holidays and things like that, so yeah, we're looking forward to bringing you different things throughout the summer. As well as the coffee house, there are different times opening, so do look on social media for those. But yeah, that's mainly it. Just wanted to update everybody that we are all back and running as normal now.
Although I would say, unfortunately, the coffee machine is broken.
Oh, is it?
So I really, really hope that can get sorted out. But I don't think that it's going to be open tomorrow, the cafe.
No,
so,
I think we've already put on there that it's going to be closed tomorrow. But hopefully, going into next week, if we got it sorted, we'll be back open for our summer timetable kind of thing. But everything else is on. You know, we've got our usual services that Colin will be running. Obviously, we haven't got Bernard with us for a couple of weeks at the moment as he's away, but again, we'll be back hopefully next week maybe with the studio, as well as, again, the art streams and the cookery classes. And I think Heidi's got a couple of different plans for maybe like sports day and things like that, looking
and
in the
they'll
future.
all be on Facebook, won't they?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So tomorrow at St Sed's we've got Elements. It's 4 sessions every Friday in August, and it runs from 10 o'clock until 12. That's the activities. If you send your children, or even come with your children, we have a packed lunch. They can stay in the extra hour if they would like and have their lunch here. Tomorrow, Elements is the element of water, which is a surprise for live streams, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what I would say is there's a danger they may get wet. So maybe pack a t-shirt, something like that. We'll try not to, but kids, they love water, don't they? And then Sunday we've got our usual service here, and lots of things during the week. Our book club on Monday is at 5:30, and it's not just a book club anymore, it's also storytelling. Okay, so this comes as an inspiration from New Wine, actually. So during a time when we were about to worship, Colin had like the inspiration, which possibly comes from God, that this is an opportunity for people to tell their stories and also to listen to other people's stories as well. So it's
powerful.
Yeah,
well, we welcome you all to that. It'll be great to have maybe get a group that we meet up once a month to kind of maybe have a book that we go off and read together, or just come together and even just have a chat, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's it's a very casual, it's nothing too serious.
No, not at all. So if you don't like reading, you can still come.
Exactly.
So there you go. It's now open to everybody, and there is the option, if you do like reading, to read what we're reading, or read what you want to read.
Yeah.
I think.
But main thing I'd say is just if you are interested in anything we've got going on, please do just contact us. Call the church office just so we know what maybe you want to have a look at doing. If there's something specific that you might want us to look at doing, we might be able to look into that. Maybe here at St Sed's or at St Peter's or at St Stephen's at 2 on 3 or in the garden. So just let us know anything you'd like us to do, and we look forward to seeing you over the summer.
Okay, I think that's all for today. So thanks, Kelly, for coming and giving your perspective. And I hope whilst you're here in Southend that you, you live here, that your children
back on my holidays.
well, whilst you're back, that you have a lovely week with your children.
Thank you.
And hope God blesses you with lots of fun and good memories.
Good night.
Yeah. So that's all for us. Have a good week, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.
See you. Bye.